Hey, welcome back to the show. My name is Brian Greer, and you're watching Game Brigade. And today on the show, we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 Kickstarters I think you should be aware of. Plus, because we have to be that way, we're throwing in a bonus number 6. So stay tuned for those Kickstarters. Down below, I've got timestamps for your convenience. Let's hit it. Agemonia is going to be a story-driven cooperative campaign game, which is there's going to be a whole lot of these games. Campaign dungeon crawling systems are one of the most popular game formats for board games. So there's a very high demand in terms of these products, and I think we as consumers, we have to try to find our best way to kind of sort through them. This game does have some interesting, unique things that I like in terms of the dungeon crawlers that I am looking for, mainly in terms of customization and replayability. This game has that customization in droves, where you're going to have your character with their starting abilities, and you can go ahead and unlock additional abilities as you progress through the stories. Which is also interesting is as you unlock these abilities, based on the scenario you're going with, you can actually change up kind of the different types of abilities that you can be taking in. So there's not going to be necessarily a one-track path for every character. I kind of like that customizational option. The other interesting fact about this game is it's going to be taking on the idea that was very much popularized in Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, where you're going to be having your player board on the book in the center of the board, which allows the creator to add more details, more colorful art, as well as reduce teardown and setup time for the players. Another interesting aspect about this game is there's going to be story options throughout the game that we will be unlocking through, different types of scenario boards. I'm trying to see if there's any options on the player mat. There'll be story scenarios that you can unlock, but it might unlock hidden chambers, additional side quests. So there's going to be some more agency for players to go through in terms of the decisions you want to make as you complete through the dungeon. We're looking forward to seeing this one. I really want to see the full in-depth picture of everything as it was put together and decide at that point, will it be worth backing or not. But it definitely has me intrigued, coming out on September 7th. Okay, so for those deck builders out there, we've got Tournament Fishing, the deck building game. Now, this originally came out in 2017. It is being remastered and deluxeified by TGG Games. TGG Games is actually known for being a retail store, either retail local, like in-store, or online. But they have delved into doing some games for Kickstarter production, usually taking games that have already been produced and remastering them, reproducing them. And so Tournament Fishing is one of the next ones. In fact, I don't know if you guys can see it, but you probably can't. There's a copy back there that I have for review. So I'll be checking out that game and posting my review hopefully in the next week. Tournament Fishing, what are we looking at here? So this game, and now obviously the pictures I'll be showing you, this is going to be from the original game. There isn't any photos of the new remastered version on here. But the idea of this game is you're going to be playing as a fisherman where you're going to a lake trying to catch different types of fish. Now, the theme can be different for different types of people, but the gameplay does look really interesting for this one, where players are going to have to pick the right types of bait for the type of fish you're going after. So, for example, you can see here the spotted bass. It says any color lure. In fact, they're kind of hiding. So each fish, you have to have a lure, a bait, and an angler's skill to be able to catch the fish that you reveal. And the game will basically decide who the winner is on who has the highest amount of points in fish at the end of the day. Players will be building their deck, trying to get better types of lures, better types of abilities, where they will then go out and search for these fish. And so what you're going to be doing is you're actually going to be doing a form called the cast phase. Let's see if I can find a photo of that. Here we go. Where you're going to select your lure. You're going to select the kind of cast you're going to be doing. You're going to be sending out that cast, and then once you start searching for the fish in this memory type mini game, we're going to be trying to see if we can find the fish. And if you do find the fish, you're then going to have to discard cards over here to try to see if you can wrangle that fish in and bring it in. There are also some other modes in here that determine the time of day, if the fish are biting at that point. So instead of going out and fishing at that point, maybe you can scout the lake and look for some different types of options. For a deck building game, it looks really good, and it is very well intertwined with the thematics of how the fishing world kind of is out there. So I'm not a big fisherman, but I've got friends and family who are massive fishermen. So I've actually got a few of them planning to come over here and play the game because I thought it might be kind of fun trying this out with some actual fishermen to see how well it plays in terms of that world. So this is also coming out on the 7th for Kickstarter. Let's take a further look at it and see how it does. Okay, so the next one we'll be taking a look at is Dungeons of Infinity by Sky Kingdom Games. Now, this was originally printed in 2020 as a Kickstarter. The game has finally fulfilled, and it's been very popularized. Now, there has been some issues with the original game in terms of rulebook and component quality issues. So Sky Kingdom Games has actually picked up the publishing rights for this, and they're going to be redoing it in a second edition, as well as launching an additional Kickstarter. Sky Kingdom Games is very popularized for their large Eternia Guard, but that hasn't released. Also, Stonebound Saga. But the big game that everyone's talking about is this Eternia Guard. So we're kind of curious in terms of how they're going to do. We're still waiting on that other game to release. But this game is going to be taking more of a classical look at a dungeon crawler / adventure game. And I want to make sure I put that slash in there because this does have a lot of one-shot options. Kind of think of games like Too Many Bones, which has a minor campaign option if you want to play it, but more focuses on those one-shot adventures. Dungeons of Infinity has that option, but you also have the option of a very rich and deep campaign where players can take on the different classes that are involved in the game, learning about each individual story, and then how they combine into an entirely circular storyline and how they interact. This game will be using different types of abilities and cards and action points for players to play through. And here's some of the examples of the minions. And we can come down here and see some of the action points for the players. The game is going to be, like I said, very much reminiscent of a classical dungeon crawler. And it's also going to be a dungeon crawler that you will be revealing. Very similar to Bard Sung. So if you are looking at this game and you're considering, is this the type of dungeon crawler I'm looking for? I would heavily consider looking at Bard Sung as well to see which one fills your niche the best. I do think this game looks very interesting, and I'm excited to see more from it. The coolest thing that I think is going to be seeing how the deluxeified edition improves the gameplay, if at all, as well as where the price point will fall at, because we're going to be seeing things like the game trays inserts, double layered player boards, things that just increase the cost. We want to see how much is that increasing overall. They are going to have a standee as well as a miniatures version as well. So excited for Dungeons of Infinity to come out on Kickstarter on the 7th. Okay, so the next big game coming out on September 14th this time is Masters of the Universe by CMON Games. Now, first off, we know that this game is going to be a fairly close must-back game, mostly because CMON Games historically have held their value or have been worth more after in the Kickstarter versions. But in terms of the gameplay being for you, that's where the biggest question is going to lie in this one. This is a one versus many / cooperative skirmish game where players are going to be either playing as the heroes, I guess you would say, from the TV show, or the villains. Now, they're not going to say necessarily that you're playing good versus evil. You're just choosing a faction, and then your opponents will play, obviously, the other faction. And you're going to have scenario-based objectives that could be defeat the amount of heroes or defeat the other players, recover a certain amount of objective points, or collect a certain item somewhere. And that will be the central focus of the skirmish as you then basically fight each other using a system of activations where if you activate more on a certain character, the less power points they're going to get. So it's an interesting system. I'm curious to see more. Knowing CMON Games, it's going to be probably a $100 base pledge game, looking closer to $250 for an all-in, up to maybe $300 for that all-in pledge. Looking for multiple different types of expansions, lots of different types of Kickstarter exclusives, also thrown out the expansions. There's a lot of content here. If you're looking for some additional videos, I recommend checking out Board Game Co's playthrough video. You have Quackalope has a very good video as well with Shira talking about kind of the gameplay elements. Definitely lots of information out here for Masters of the Universe. Again, I would deeply recommend considering it, even if you're not interested in playing it, because if you play it and it's not really for you, you could easily resell this game and get your money back at the minimum. So that's Masters of the Universe by CMON Games, coming out September 14th. Okay, so one of the more indie games we're going to be taking a look at here is Beast, coming out on September 28th. And this game is going to be another one versus many game with hidden movement, where players are going to be playing either as the beasts or the hunters searching for the beasts, kind of trying to find them and defeat them. And this is also going to be another scenario-based game where the beasts and the hunters are going to have different types of scenarios that they need to complete for victory. The game looks interesting. I do think it's a little rough right now in terms of the prototype photos we've seen and also the prototype videos, but I'm really curious what it's going to look like in its final production in terms of the Kickstarter presentation, in terms of what it's going to look like. The theme and the theory looks cool. I like the beasts that they have here in terms of some of the mythical different types of beasts. We have like Fenrir from like the Viking lore, Hogbad. So there's a bunch of different types of beasts that we're going to be interacting with. I'm not a big one versus many fan personally, so they've got a lot of one versus many's coming out this month. But I am intrigued enough because I'm drawn in by the atmosphere and the lore that they're presenting here with this idea. I love the box art. There's a lot of stuff I like about this game. I'm excited to see more. Plus, it's got some card drafting. I like card drafting in my gameplay. So looking forward to this one. Coming out kind of closer to the end of the month. So in terms of the competition for my dollars, it's going to be fighting for a tough spot there at the 28th for my monthly spend. Okay, coming in at number 6. This was technically not the bonus video. I wonder if you guys could figure out which one was my bonus video. What was my top 5 plus 1? I'd really like to know if you guys knew. But coming in at number 6 is Voidfall, coming out the 28th of September as well. Now, this is going to be an interesting take because, one, Mindclash Games, I really like their products. I like all the stuff they've released so far. This is also a 4X game, but with a Euro twist to it. What does that mean? Well, 4X is generally explore, exterminate, exploit, and expand, where a game such as Twilight Imperium is very well known for, where players generally have a massive armies, there's some political intrigue, you're fighting for territories as you expand your region, and then fighting for some sort of objectives. Euros, on the other hand, are most commonly known for their economy management, action point selection, worker placement, and really trying to build up the best system or engine in your mini game that you're playing. And there's sometimes minor interactions with the other players. Usually it could be action selection in terms of blocking off different types of actions or potentially locking off a certain type of resource. So I'm interested in how they're going to meld the two. And it's not like it doesn't make sense. Because if you were thinking of any type of 4X or a real-time strategy game, the economy is a very big part of that system. So it doesn't seem like this is not a melding that doesn't go in, together. I think they very do well, make sense. I am a little concerned about in terms of the production value, in terms of what I'm looking at here of the card arts. I do like the hexagonal stuff, but some of the stuff looks a little interesting to me, so I'm curious what the final production value is going to be. I love hexagonal space systems. They do promise that there's going to be different types of scenario boards to set up, so your galaxy is not going to always be the same. A lot of games will do a circular galaxy, which kind of creates a funnel down to the center, which is kind of the point because it's trying to cause confliction or force people to go to the middle to kind of interact with each other. I'm curious to see what this game's design is. Now, there are a lot of elements to this game that do remind me of another game that's in the system, kind of like this one, which is called Eclipse, which is a game that requires players to manage their economy and their civilization, as well as try to grow as much as they can, expand, produce, and research tech. This game will be having players choose between tech, your civilization track, your economy sectors, your population, your production, and your expansions and your conquering. So kind of similarities between the two. I'm curious to see what the final production value of this looks like compared to Eclipse, because Eclipse is going to be hitting the retail stores relatively soon. We were told kind of near the end of the year for 2021 that I'll be seeing it in retail, so I'm curious to see what that will look like comparatively to Voidfall. But I am super excited for this one. I think this has all of the makings of being a hit. It also has Ian O'Toole as the lead artist, which I've generally always liked Ian O'Toole's products in terms of his art. I'm just hoping that the game board doesn't look as messy as some of these production arts have shown. But it really depends on what the heck's going on here. I don't fully know everything that's going on in these production videos or photos, so it's hard to know exactly if it's messy or not. So that was my top 6 games coming out for the month of September. Hopefully you guys like this list. I tried to find the games that looked the most interesting to me, as well as had the best value in terms of a Kickstarter. I know when we're backing games on Kickstarter, we're always looking for the best value, trying to find the thing that's worth the amount of money. So we're also trying not to hit any misses or have any problems with some poor games. So hopefully I curated a good list for you. I always recommend, though, if you're going to be backing on Kickstarter, back responsibly. Check all the background of the developer and the publisher. Make sure that you're doing the right thing and spending your money wisely. This is Brian from Game Brigade. If you like this type of content, make sure you leave me a like. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you're new to the channel and you haven't seen me before, consider hitting the subscribe button and joining the Game Brigade community. Otherwise, I appreciate everyone for leaving comments down below. Let me know what you guys think of these games. Also, do you know which one's the bonus one? Let me know in the comment section down below. I will talk to you all very soon. Bye-bye.